Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. I've been friends with Pietze for 33 years, and everybody's always like, oh my gosh, your friendship's so cute. Friendship goals, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, the only reason that we are still friends is because we learned how to do conflict.
Oh, yeah.
We almost blew our relationship up multiple times.
Yeah,
I mean, there was one time where we stopped talking to each other for almost a year because we didn't know how to do conflict and talk through things. And there's not one close relationship that I have that we don't do conflict in. Because you have to be honest and know each other. And the thing that makes relationships feel so safe is when you can be honest and you have the tools to love each other through misunderstandings. Misunderstandings happen all the time.
Well, they're inevitable.
Yes.
That's the thing. They're inevitable. And one of the things that I oftentimes see is people try to get away with not doing conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have these misunderstandings or difficulties that happen.
You just build walls or assumptions.
They will keep building internally. And you'll just go, no, it's fine. No, it's cool. I'm letting this go. I'm just going to get over this. But eventually there's a volcano that erupts. And then that's when like lava explodes everywhere and entire cities just get melted down.
Eventually you start to make judgments about somebody else without ever giving them a chance to clarify miscommunications.
Yeah.
And that is what is dangerous in relationships is when you start judging somebody else's intentions because you don't have enough information.
And what happens is you take something that's a molehill and you turn it into a mountain.
Yeah.
And now that mountain is almost impossible for not only you to scale and get over, but it's almost impossible for the other person to take on because now you've presented something to someone else and said, I have all these accounts inside of me when you eventually get to it. And it's like this impossible thing that they have to try and overcome in order to reconnect with you.
So relationships die without being able to have good conversations and know how to get to repair and connection.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways when we have honest conversations where we accidentally stab each other if we don't know tools to help us do it well. And so we have stabbed each other a lot. And so we've learned how to not do that as much.
We've done it so poorly, we learned how to do it well.
Yes. And we're not perfect at it still, but we are so much better. And we've had a few things that have dramatically changed the course of our relationship. And it's made so much more safety in our connection. So we want to invite you. We do a mini conference once a year on conflict. We teach the Life Consulting Masterclass. That's our year-long program that we do. We take them through all kinds of emotional health things. And this is the favorite mini conference we do. This is the one they love the most. They say is the most life transforming. Almost everyone's like, no one's ever taught me how to do this well. Yep. And so, of course, we're making messes.
Tools for conflict just don't exist. It's just not readily available to people out there. So this free online mini conference that we're inviting you into is a way to gather some of those tools in a 2-day event. You can go ahead and go to justinandabby.com/conflict. It's going to take you to a page where you can just enter in your information and you're going to get a link to that free conference. And you can come join us and see what it's like to be part of our Life Consulting Masterclass and also get some really amazing tools.
Yeah, so now enjoy this episode.
Yeah, enjoy it. You better enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Okay. So, for those of you that are just tuning in, Pietze is my best friend for my whole entire life. I met her when I was 7. We've lived together sometimes. We've had long distance relationship for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And she came out here to hang out with me, and we were hanging out last night when she started to tell me this story from our childhood. And she's like, do you remember Heather? Do you remember that one time that me and you stole Heather's clothes and locked her out at camp? At church camp,
we went to summer camp every year together growing up.
Yes.
So it was a big part of our childhood. It was a big part of our friendship.
Yeah.
Was going to summer camp every summer.
Yes.
Yes. So I was telling her the story.
Do you remember when me and you stole Heather's clothes where I think she'd gone out.
We dared her. No, we dared her
We
dared her
skinny
and
dipping?
another girl that I didn't know of at that moment to go to the end of the dock and jump into the lake at night, skinny dipping naked. And then
you stole all the clothes and
I
locked
stole all the
door.
clothes and ran back into the cabin
And so
locked
Pietze
the door.
is telling me this story, and she's literally saying all of the things like, and then me, who was that other girl? Who was that girl?
Like, do you remember who that other girl was?
It was me. I was the girl. Me and you did not do that story together. I was the girl that you stole my clothes and locked me in the cold night woods of church camp naked.
Here's the truth. I genuinely thought that it was me and you who stole the clothes. And then I realized it was just me who stole the clothes. And it was you and Heather. And this is why I feel responsible to say that I caused a lot of the trauma that Abby has experienced, which is why all of you now benefit from this podcast.
Yeah, it's so true.
She's had to go on a huge recovery journey.
No, that stuff is not the stuff that traumatized me. You did much worse than that to me.
Oh, I did. I did do much worse.
That's what sisters are. They're like
100%.
a little bit of wonderfulness and a little bit of hell.
Then I remembered that it was you. But then I couldn't stop laughing because to this day I still think it's like the funniest freaking thing that ever happened.
Yeah. Well, I died that you had no idea. It was delightful.
It was delightful.
We laughed for a long time.
We stayed up till
night.
like 2 a.m. It was bad.
Was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
It was bad because we had early morning meetings. But it was exactly what you want to do with your best friend.
Gosh.
Have a
it was
sleepover.
the best, 100%. And we have like the best camp stories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Very
what a
thankful for
magical
those.
childhood.
Well, this whole episode is not us reminiscing in case some of you are getting nervous.
They're like, oh gosh.
Here they go again.
Great. I'm like dying over here in my trauma, and you guys are talking about how this magical childhood experience. Awesome.
But we are going to talk about something that I'm excited to talk about. We're going to talk about codependency. And we're really going to talk about how truth telling changes the game with codependency.
100%.
But codependency is something a lot of us experience, especially if you grew up with any kind of dysfunction in your childhood. Maybe you had a sibling that was an addict. Maybe you had a parent that was depressed. Maybe you had, or an addict, or somebody was really sick, or somebody was really high maintenance, or oftentimes there's something that is consuming in the childhood.
Yep.
Or people are just at the edge of their rope. Like I would say in your childhood, your parents both loved you and your siblings, but there was a season where their life stress was just so high. They didn't have capacity to meet things. And so their window of tolerance was shorter. So they easily got frustrated. They easily yelled. They easily got intense. And what that does is it creates this idea of the other people, like, I need to figure out how to make you happy so that you won't do anything that hurts me.
100%.
For me, like there was, like I was around somebody who was angry a lot. And what that did is it made it so I was constantly like, what can I do to make sure that they aren't angry? Because the anger hurts me. So it's basically codependency is how do I get safe inside of relationship?
Yep.
I'm terrified of you doing something that could hurt me. So the way that I feel safe is if I can control you to not hurt me.
Yeah.
So that I can feel secure.
Absolutely.
You know, even with my mom, she was so depressed and suicidal. So I was like, I need to make her happy so that she does, because ultimately, like, I need a mom.
Totally.
If she kills herself or goes into her hole of depression, I won't get that. But maybe if I do everything right, she will have the capacity to meet my needs.
Absolutely.
I have a friend or a girl a student in our school. She's also a friend, but that was talking about in her childhood, her dad was an addict. And so basically what happened was she was like, if I do everything right, maybe I can get him out of being an addict.
Right.
And then my needs will get met.
Yep.
So the basis is I'm not okay if you're not okay.
Yep.
And the fear is if you're not okay, whatever happens because of that is going to destroy me.
Absolutely.
If you're not okay, your anger will destroy me. If you're not okay, your addiction will destroy me. If you're not okay, your depression will destroy me. If you're not okay, you being isolated will destroy me.
Yeah.
And whatever the pain is that we're experiencing, we internalize as if I become the best, I can beat the system.
100%. 100%. And the interesting thing about codependence and what people don't realize is like typically when people think about codependent, they think about someone who's like really needy and really clingy and really like has all the.
Is that what people think?
A lot of times people think that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I've been codependent my whole life and I've just thought, we just want to make people happy. That's what I thought.
Totally. 100%. But the interesting thing is that codependence really takes on two main forms. And so really, there's like two ways that codependence goes. And one is control and the other is withdrawal. So when I feel unsafe in the relationship because I don't feel like I can be honest, and really where this comes from is we all have the desire to seek approval and avoid disapproval.
Yes.
Right?
That is a innate human desire. We want approval.
Yep. We're all seeking approval and we're all trying to avoid disapproval. So a lot of times what happens is it's because of that subconscious drive to gain approval and always avoid disapproval. What ends up happening is that when I get into a relationship with someone, whether that be a friendship or even a coworker or a romantic relationship is very common. What happens is that there's usually a moment where something triggers in the relationship. And we talked about this in previous podcasts, but getting close starts to bring up issues.
Oh gosh. The closer you are with your friends, the closer you are with your spouse. And I mean, you can be married and not be emotionally close.
Totally.
But when you start to come towards intimacy and connection with any person, like I don't have that much conflict with people who are far away from me.
Totally.
But when they're in your world,
the closer they get,
the more
it actually tends to bring up issues. Why? Because that's where most of our trauma, most of our pain came from our close relationships. So that's what tends to trigger.
Yes.
Now we figured out coping, like you said, I figured out coping skills growing up. Like the girl whose dad was an alcoholic. Was that right? I figured out, she figured out coping skills of if I just try to protect him or if I just try to not say anything, then
or if I make him happy,
or if I can make dad happy, then I can be okay and I can get my needs met. Right. We learned these adaptive behaviors growing up and they are what helped us to survive
and
childhood.
We should not be mad about that.
No, thank goodness. Thank
we had
goodness.
something to help us.
Because we didn't have the ability to be honest and we didn't have the ability to have a voice often in our childhoods. And so we had to find roundabout ways to figure out how to stay close to our attachments, how to stay close to safety.
Yeah. So
you know,
if I could have been honest with my mom, I could have said like, your depression really scares me. And I don't feel like you're going to
bring disapproval and withdraw love if I say that.
Yes.
You know, but that doesn't feel safe, right?
No.
Usually if I were to say something like that, what am I going to do? I'm going to get punished for saying something like that. I'm going to hurt mom's feelings and she's going to get upset and then love's going to be withheld. So we learned these maladaptive behaviors growing up, these strategies, if you will, in order to cope and sustain relationships. The problem is that as we get into adulthood, those same coping strategies tend to be what degrade our relationships. They don't work because we're not children anymore.
Yes.
We're not children. And there's a lot of parts inside of us that are kind of still in arrested development in some ways.
Very true.
You know, and so it tends to take on codependence. So what happens is because all of us are trying to avoid disapproval and seek approval. What happens is when we begin to get close in a relationship, there's always tends to be a moment that pops up where we start to feel unsafe or something the other person does bothers us. But in that moment, typically what happens, and it happens early in a relationship, right? typically what happens is instead of being honest and confronting the issue, what I tend to do then is I go into two forms. So I either shove it down, and then I start to slowly withdraw from the relationship because I feel unsafe and uncomfortable.
Yes.
But I don't want to be honest with how I'm feeling.
Yes.
Or B, I go into control.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not actually being honest with how I feel and what I need. So then I'm going to try to control your behavior to make sure that you meet my needs.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, we'll use love is blind. I don't know. Blind love.
Blind love.
It's both. As an example. So in the experiment for the TV show, basically they meet a bunch of people through, like, they're in pods, so they can't see each other.
Totally.
And they date a bunch of people, and if they find a match, then they can find their match.
It's ridiculously, wonderfully drama filled.
It's drama filled. Basically, they find their match without ever seeing them.
Yes.
And so then what happens is they propose without ever seeing them. And then they meet each other.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we watch is so many weird behaviors as soon as they see each other.
Yep.
And it all boils down to they don't have the ability to be honest.
Right.
Because what honesty would look like, and this, so I've thought, like, if I went on that show, how would I do it to try to be a healthier person while doing it?
Yep.
And I thought I would have to say, listen, I am really drawn to you through the wall, but attraction
because they talk through a wall, so they can talk and have conversations.
Like what I've met about your personality, I really like.
Yeah.
But attraction matters. And I don't know how I'm going to feel. Physical attraction. And I don't know how you're going to feel. We need to make a decision that we're both going to be honest.
Yep.
When we get out of here about what to do with what we experience. And then what I would do, not just let's be honest, because that opens a whole can for craziness.
Oh, totally.
But like here is a way that would feel good to me. Like if we get out here and you're not attracted to me, there's two different ways I'd like you to tell me. I'd either like you to say, I really loved my time with you. I can tell this isn't going to work because of our physical attraction compatibility. You are beautiful, but you're not the type of beautiful that I need or whatever.
Yes.
That's one way. Let's end this now. Or they don't even have to say, I would literally think what would feel good to me. And it would probably be, I've loved our time together. It's been so special. I've learned so much with you. I know that this isn't going to work. Let's end things now.
Yep.
Or number 2, which would be, I've loved our time together. I've gotten to know so much about you. Things are really special. You're not my normal type, but I would like to take the time to see if attraction grows here.
Yes.
Or number 3, which is like, you are better than I was hoping for. You are my exact type. But what I would want is the ability to have the honesty, because we watch the show and people are honest. So you see certain people just crumple in. They collapse in. They start to shut down. They disconnect. They start to pull away.
Yeah.
They don't want to kiss their partner. They don't want to be around them.
Because they're not actually being fully honest with themselves. Like, I don't know if I'm attracted to this person. Or it might not even be physical attraction. Sometimes it's the mannerisms of it. All of that matters, you know? But they're not being fully honest with themselves. They're not being fully honest with them. And so they just tend to withdraw because I can't be honest. And I feel trapped. And that feels overwhelming.
Then you typically see their partners who are also not being honest get very needy. Do you like me? Do you want me? Am I enough? And they keep poking. And
they go towards control. Like, you did this and I need you to, they get demanding. And
you
get
haven't
controlling.
kissed me enough today. You haven't touched me enough today. You don't care about me enough today. Instead of just, again, being honest, like, I can feel like there's a lack of connection between us. I don't know if it's about attraction. I don't know what's going on, but I can feel something is happening.
Yeah. Because what ends up happening when you do that and you get into what we call like the codependent swirl is that you're not in a relationship, you're in an entanglement.
Yes.
And really it just becomes about
it's reaction.
That's all it is.
Reaction.
Yeah. This psychologist that I love, Gay Hendricks, he talks about how it becomes an agreement that I don't have to grow and change if you don't have to grow and change. Right. And there's a subconscious codependent agreement where we both just circle and stay in dysfunction the rest of the relationship.
Yes.
and it becomes an entanglement, not a healthy give and take of a relationship.
So let's talk about how codependency looked in your marriage. And we'll go from there into what you have been working towards in untangling it.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think, both Johnny and I tend to not like to be honest naturally. Maybe wouldn't always be the most honest people in a relationship.
We're talking about micro honesty because it's not like you guys are liars.
No.
It's not like you're going to be like, oh, I ate turkey for breakfast when you actually had cereal.
Totally.
It's
100%. It's I eat turkey for
I don't know.
You would actually eat turkey for you don't eat like breakfast food. You eat like just meals. So that would be your breakfast. I don't know that we had that issue.
No, what I'm saying is it wasn't like flat out lying when you're talking about not telling truth. It's like
something bothers me about what you're doing, but I feel bad that it bothers me, and I don't feel like it should bother me, and I don't want to feel that I'm annoyed about this. So rather than feeling that feeling and recognizing it and talking about it and then working through it and coming up with a solution, what I'm going to do is just actually start to withdraw from the relationship. And so that's what Johnny would do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is like, I would probably do a behavior that would make him feel like, oh my gosh, ooh, I don't like this. This feels overwhelming. And he would start to slowly withdraw.
Yeah.
And what do? I feel anxious and I don't like that he's doing that, but I don't want to
feel him withdrawing.
Yep.
And you don't know, that feels unsafe. It starts to cause your anxiety.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so then rather than being honest and saying, hey, I think I feel, and we did this specifically with the band. Johnny was in a band for years and years and years and years, and they toured. And, I was really uncomfortable being by myself. It wasn't working towards the end. I needed a life change, but I didn't want to be the needy wife who made him quit his dream.
Right.
Right. So
there was so much honesty that you weren't having.
Yeah. And because of that, I was then going towards control. So we would get into huge arguments because I would be like, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. And why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? It would come out in projection and it would come out in blame. And then he would feel uncomfortable and be like, whoa, this doesn't feel good. But I don't want to say something because I don't want to cause more issues with her. And also I don't want her I don't want to talk about the band because then I'm going to have to confront some issues with that. And this was all subconscious, right? Sure. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly withdraw from the relationship, and really that's where it becomes that entanglement. And one of the things that we say is, that honesty piece is so key because honesty precedes intimacy. It really does. Even when it's a hard honesty, like, hey, I feel like I'm struggling with this or that, or, hey, I feel really uncomfortable with this dynamic in our relationship. That might be hard to hear, but anytime that there's honesty, what comes after it is a sense of closeness and intimacy, even if it doesn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. There's safety in that honesty.
Oh, I've seen this happen so many times when people like break up with someone and then they get back together and they have the best get back together sex.
Oh, totally.
Or the best get back together connection or whatever, or they instantly feel close because right after you've gotten all of your truth out, it feels so good.
Yes.
You feel endorphins,
relief.
You feel known, you feel seen. And really when we're not being truthful, what that is that we're holding a part of ourselves back.
Yep.
And so when connection feels euphoric, when us and somebody else are getting to connect.
Yep.
When we are withdrawing part of ourselves, we're not getting to feel that strength in the connection.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of ourselves that we are holding back. So you have some like everyday little examples of how you and Johnny have had to practice being honest?
Oh, we do it all the time. So like if we have an issue come up and both of us start to feel feelings, I would say, one of the first things that we do and something that we really teach couples to do is feeling our feelings fully. And really indicating what is going on inside of us, because I can't communicate what we call micro truth. Okay. Like it's really like a form of narration.
Yep.
If that makes sense. We talk about narration a lot. I know you talk about it a lot on the podcast where I'm just narrating what's happening inside of me, even body experiences that I'm having, you know? So, you know, I can't do that if I'm not in touch with my feelings and I don't allow myself to go through the emotional cycle.
Yes.
You know?
And I love that you're bringing this up because for me, one of the best ways to describe codependency for me is I'm more concerned with what you're feeling and what your body is doing and what's going on in you than I am knowing of what's going on inside of myself.
Totally.
And I did this for years. I was more hypervigilant with Justin's moods and his behaviors and his actions. And I had no idea what I was feeling.
100%.
No idea what was going on. I was reacting out of the feelings that were subconscious for me.
Yeah.
And so when I break codependency, part of it is that I stop it. I almost think of my energy that is obsessed about knowing and reading this turns to like knowing and reading this. What am I feeling? And not what am I feeling about Pietze? What am I feeling? So like fake I'm feelings is like, I feel like Pietze's frustrated at me. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
Feelings would be like, I feel anxiety.
I feel panic coming up in my
feel
body.
Concern.
Yeah.
That Pietze's gonna withdraw. I feel concerned that I don't understand what she wants.
Yes.
I feel panic. And so then the first step of breaking codependency is just being aware of your own emotions
and taking responsibility
and your own
for them
and what is going on in your body.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we do when we value people being aware of their feelings and allowing themselves to feel their feelings and allowing them, recognizing, first of all, we talk about this a lot, but emotions are energy that has to be discharged out of the body. And it's always energy that's going to come up somewhere. Like if I'm feeling anxiety, I might feel that energy in my chest that feels like it's hard to breathe. Or if I'm feeling depression, I might feel heavy, like there's something on my shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, but not only like allowing myself to feel that, but also allowing, a lot of us go into these codependent swirls because we don't allow our partners or the people around us to feel their feelings.
Totally. I don't feel mine and you don't feel yours. I have to stop you. When I see that you might be about to be frustrated, I have to shut that down in you.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrified of you having negative emotions.
Yep, totally. And emotions are like, there's a cycle to them or a wave, if you will, where it's like, I have to go up the emotional wave and I will come down. But if I stop
Every wave
myself,
comes down if you let it.
If I stop myself from feeling that feeling fully, or I stop my partner from feeling it because I don't allow them to feel their feeling because I'm too codependent, right? Like I can't handle them feeling something because I'm afraid that love's going to be withheld. So I get nervous and I try to stop them from feeling their feelings, right? In that entanglement. What I do is I keep them stuck in that emotion.
Yeah.
I keep myself stuck in that emotion. I don't allow myself to come all the way back down, you know? And so really the first key point like to it is recognizing like, oh, I have emotions coming up, and maybe that looks like, oh, I have panic inside of my chest and my thoughts are ruminating and I feel scared. I feel scared that Johnny's upset with me, that I'm having anxiety and he's going to shut down, you know? And so one way that like we will do this often, I remember there was a incident probably like a month ago where we were going to teach a class together and then we didn't go over what was in the class and it was getting to the morning. You know how this goes. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, he's like, I was going to do this. And I was like, I don't think we should do that. I was going to do that. And it started to erupt in a fight because we were just trying to like manage each other rather than feeling. So we took time apart, right? I went for a walk. And when I went for this walk, I was so elevated in my nervous system. I was pissed.
Totally.
I was like ruminating and I just let myself vent it out for a little bit. I let myself get in touch with the anger and I didn't push it away and I just vented it out for a minute. And then I started to connect to safety cues in my environment and I just started to let myself come back down. And then I realized I'm like, oh,
safety cues being like you might notice like the breeze that's blowing, the beautiful park that you're looking at.
There was kids playing soccer in the field and I forced my brain in rumination. I'm not in the present moment. Sure. I'm in threat. I'm not even noticing what's happening around me. It could be a sunny day. It could be a blizzard. I wouldn't notice.
Yep.
You know, But I forced my brain to come to the present moment and look around and take it in and go, it's going to be okay. Yeah. And the minute that I allowed myself to do that, I recognized that the feeling that I was feeling is I felt scared that I didn't know how to solve the problem. I don't know how to solve the problem. And when I realized that, I'm like, that's what's causing me anxiety. And that's what's causing not Johnny. It's because I can't figure out right now how to solve this problem. And then I was like, well, I don't know what to do about that. And then it popped in my head. I just need to be honest about that. I need to be honest that I don't know how to solve the problem.
Yes.
And that's causing me a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
So I came home and I said, hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
I put my hand over my heart and I just got in touch with myself for a second and I just narrated. I just spoke the microscopic truth. I can feel that I have a lot of anxiety and panic coming up because I can tell that we need to get on the same page before we teach this class. And I don't know how to solve the problem. And that's causing me tons of anxiety because I'm afraid that we're going to be disjointed going into the class.
Yeah.
Now, the way that I did that, it wasn't blame. It wasn't, had I not felt my feelings, I wouldn't have been able to tell that microscopic truth. It would have come out in blame. It would have come out in accusation, and it would have come out in trying to control Johnny's behavior so that I could feel safe.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I just told the truth. And then he told his microscopic truth back. He was like, I am feeling really overwhelmed. I can feel myself wanting to shut down and withdraw from you. And I don't want to do that. And that feels scary. And I'm afraid that I'm not going to get to have a voice with you in this. And then we went back and forth, just telling each other the microscopic truth. And in that moment, we actually didn't figure out how to solve the problem.
Totally. You were just known.
Yep, that's it. And we just ended it. We couldn't solve it in that moment, but we just ended it with like, I don't know what the answer is, but I want you to know that you matter to me.
Yes.
And he said the same thing back to me. I don't know what the answer is, but I want you to know that you matter to me too. You know? And so really that honesty. And then from there, like an hour later, we were so calmed down. And because we valued each other's nervous system, and we were in acceptance of the reality of what was happening, a solution came to us and we were able to teach class just fine.
Absolutely.
You know?
I was thinking about a situation that I just went through that I think it demonstrates codependency really well and stopping people in the emotion wave. So basically, one of my best friends lives in okay, let me start. How am I going to start this? One of my best friends decided to get engaged. They decided to get engaged in Hawaii, where one of my closest friends lives. And, but I have not been out to see my friend who lives in Hawaii for a few years because I stopped traveling when my body was really unhealthy. Now, and they have had a kid, and I've met their kid here in the US.
Sure.
But I haven't been to their house since then.
Yeah.
And so when my friend was like, please come out for the proposal, I knew this is going to hurt my friend's feelings for me to come out there not to see her. And also they picked a timeline where I couldn't even stay long. So I couldn't even visit her much because I had a trip that I couldn't move that I was really frustrated about. So I knew I am going to hurt her feelings because she's going to feel like she's not, because she's invited me several times and I've said no.
Yeah.
And she's going to feel like I don't prioritize her and I don't care about her.
Totally.
And that I care about him. And I knew that that would hurt her feelings and I didn't want her to feel hurt feelings. So I called her to talk about it, but I did want to shut her emotions down. So I wanted to be like, the only reasons that I'm doing this is because of this. And I would have been out there, but I've been too sick to travel, but I just traveled for the first time and my body was okay. And I'm doing like, what I wanted to do was minimize its effect or tell her all the reasons it shouldn't affect her.
Yes.
Because I was wanting her to not feel bad.
Yes.
And ultimately, and I remember I could feel, it's like a sticky feeling in me where I was trying to control her not having hurt feelings.
Totally.
And
I catch myself in this all the time. It is such a common thing for me.
Yes.
You know?
And so for me, I had to go back to, first I had to get back to like, then I was like, well, I just won't go. so that I won't hurt her feelings.
Totally. This is such a great example because these are the extremes that we go to avoid having to be honest.
Yes.
Right.
And so instead, what I did was like, well, wait, what is it that I actually feel about the situation? I actually feel like I want to go to this thing. And I do feel sad that it will hurt her feelings. And she needs to be allowed to have hurt feelings. And I'm going to do what I can to spend time with her while I'm there.
Yes.
And so, that to me is such a great example of what codependency looks like is I'm afraid of someone not being happy with me.
Yes.
So I see people like they'll do microscopic lies about like
I love that.
How like
microscopic lies. That's so true.
Well,
it's the
know,
counter to microscopic truth.
Yeah.
That's so right. That's so good. That's key.
It'll be like they'll like say something like well, work just ran late when it was really that 5 other things happened.
Yeah.
But they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yes. Or I don't want you to be mad with me. So I'm just going to do little lies.
Yes.
Yes.
And that creates, what it does though, is it creates really weird self-protective behavior. Because if you lie, then you have to keep lying. And what people will feel that weird energy shift when you lie, and then they'll pick up on that energy shift and then they'll be confused about what's going on. That is all Love is Blind is.
Totally.
Love is Blind is like they feel the other person's energy is weird.
Yes.
Because the other person is not being honest.
Yes.
So now they feel really insecure.
Yeah.
So now they're asking questions that are not even the real question.
Totally.
So then this person can answer it 5 million times.
Yep.
But it doesn't fix that there's weird energy.
Yeah. Because we're not actually addressing the elephant in the room because I'm not feeling my feelings and I don't want you to feel your feelings either. I don't, if you were being, because on Love is Blind, like there's a situation where you can tell that one of the couples, the woman in the relationship feels insecure that the guy doesn't like her.
Yes. Chelsea and Jimmy.
Chelsea and Jimmy, if you know. And you can tell that Jimmy is, there's times where you can tell that Jimmy is withholding truth about how he feels, which is making her feel more insecure. And you can see the entanglement. They just go round and round and round and round. And really what needs to happen is Chelsea needs to get honest with herself and be like, I feel really scared that you're not attracted to me and that you're regretting your decision.
Own it.
And just own it.
Yeah.
I feel scared. I feel panic that you are.
And if you're not attracted to me, that would be sad, but that would be okay.
Yes, absolutely.
That acceptance, because you can't control someone to be attracted
loss
to you.
Loss is a part of life and you can't control when loss happens. And that's
the resistance we have to things often creates a bigger amount of drama.
Yep.
Now, I think I actually have no idea what his thoughts are, if he is attracted to her.
Totally.
If he isn't, he's very hard for me to read and understand.
Hard to read. But there have been moments, and even he has admitted that there's been times where you kind of see that probably she's feeling something.
Yes.
And through countertransference, like through us even feeling what's going, we can feel that there is something is going on and he's not being fully honest, which is making her more insecure. And what he needs to do, like, let's say he's not actually attracted to her. Let's say that is the reality. Yeah. He needs to be honest and be like, I'm struggling. It's not because I don't think that you're a beautiful girl. I'm struggling to know if this is the right fit for me, if I'm attracted to you. That's hard to hear. And I feel scared being honest with you because there's a part of me that loves you so much. And there's a part of me that's still trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
If they could have an honest conversation and that was accepted and that felt safe, it would bring actually so much intimacy and connection to the relationship.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. No, this is a very common theme for why people won't get closer in a relationship, is because they have a bunch of truth that they haven't actually shared.
100%.
I saw some friends of mine go through that this year, where one of the spouses was building up resentment for a bunch of things, but they'd never just said it.
Totally.
They'd never just said, hey, I feel resentful for how this thing is taking over a bunch of our lives.
Totally. So how did it come out?
And so they were pulling back more and more, and they were starting to withdraw more and more and more.
Yep.
But the other person, I don't think, was even aware of what was happening. But the person who was withdrawing was like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Right.
Because that's what happens when we withhold
They got
truth.
all the way to the point where suddenly they feel like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know if like, just like you were like, well, maybe I just shouldn't go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they ended up being fully honest about all the feelings they were feeling. I feel like this is taking too much of our lives. I feel like this is consuming too much. I feel like I'm getting neglected. I feel like I'm not being seen. And their partner was like, oh, and it was some big gulps for their partner. They were like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. But there was also some honor in it.
Yeah.
Because truth was being told.
Yes.
And now I think we have to be kind when we tell truth.
Absolutely.
I think we have to work on how we deliver
well, and if you
it.
recognize even how we were narrating truth, there was no blame in that.
Yes.
It was I statements. That's why that piece of knowing what you're feeling and communicating it is key. Because if you don't do that, it will always come out as the other person that's still codependent.
Yes. And this was really hard for me to understand. I was like, I don't know how to share my feelings in conflict. For years, I was like, I don't know how. What is the, like, I couldn't, all the formulas that I heard never made sense until I spent a long time working on what am I feeling? So just not about the other person at all. I'm feeling like I'm going into fight. I'm feeling like I'm going into flight. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling scared. Like I started figuring out, what are my feelings? What are my feelings in my body? And what are my feelings? And then when I share my feelings, like when I share my feelings with Justin, it might be like, I feel really scared that I'm never going to feel safe because of blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
But it's not, you are making me feel unsafe.
Yes, totally.
You know,
totally.
It's a very
100%.
big difference.
There was another couple on Love is Blind where we just got to bring in they're fresh in our minds because we've been binging this, people.
Yes.
We've been binging Love is Blind. That's what we got to do when we're together. Okay. But there was another couple that I thought was such a great example of this, where it was our healthy attached girl and she was dating a guy and things were going great. And then you could tell that there was a moment where he lost interest in the relationship. You could feel him starting to shut down and withdraw. We don't know why.
Totally.
We don't know what happened, but you could feel that there was a withdrawal from the relationship after they like saw each other, you know, after a little bit of time. And when she went to confront him about it, he basically, rather than being honest with how he was feeling,
this is what happened for me. This is what I'm scared of. This is what I don't.
He did the opposite, which is that he projected how he was feeling onto her. So he basically kind of spun it around that, like, when she confronted him being like, well, it sounds like you're not really into the relationship anymore. Yeah. And if you're feeling this way, and you're not 100% in, then we should end it. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that is a great example of projection, because there was not one statement in there where he owned his truth, where he owned what was happening inside of him.
Or that he even acknowledged anything about what was going on in him.
Absolutely.
It was like, oh, I guess this is about you.
Totally.
And this is how we, again, begin to pull out of codependency and dysfunctional relationship cycles is like, okay, but what is it that you are feeling?
Yes.
What is it that I am feeling? How do I get honest?
Yep. Yeah, totally. And again, it's like what we're saying, that honesty is represented in kindness because I value the relationship. So if I'm not using microscopic truth and it's coming out of blame, that's not honesty. That's actually codependence. Yeah. Because I'm blaming you for how I feel. You know, now you might have a part in that. And I'm not saying that there isn't a give and take where we go, oh, hey, you know, we're all about taking ownership here.
Absolutely.
We will preach that till the cows come home. Yep. You know what I'm saying? We're all about taking ownership when there's something you can authentically own. Yes. You know, but it's the recognition that I'm narrating what is happening and I'm taking responsibility for how I'm feeling. And I don't know how you play into that yet, but I'm being honest with you to figure this out. Yeah.
Here's a great example. I think we could use a couple from our relationship.
Sure.
So, because I am just a codependent person, and I actually think you are too. So we've just had lots of codependency.
Yeah, we've done our little cycles, if you will, our little dances of codependence.
So something that I started recognizing is we would do this dance where we'd be talking about something, I would feel anxiety about what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like a strong statement,
Mm-hmm.
trying to give you direction that
Totally.
would feel like a better direction. And then
Yeah.
you would just withdraw. So like a great example would be, you were telling me about something happening in your marriage. This was like months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt anxiety about
Mhm.
like, I don't want this to be hard for them. Like I want them to be
Yeah.
able to
like
be
your
thriving.
heart is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart is
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
But the way, so then I'm like, you need to make sure that you don't do this, which comes off as a controlling thing
Yeah.
or a shaming thing.
Sure.
And what I'm saying is I'm now talking about her behavior instead of my feelings.
Totally.
So what and then when I said that, she shut down
Mm-hmm.
and she pulled back. Now, because we have been practicing, we were aware of the dynamics. And so what we did is I recognized, let me narrate what's going on in me.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell I'm feeling a lot of anxiety rise as you're sharing. My anxiety is that if you keep doing this pattern, it's going to hurt you. And I don't want you to be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to accept that it's okay if you do get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I need to narrate that this is my anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
not just try to control you
Yes.
to doing something better.
Yep. And the minute that you were honest with me, I felt relief.
Yeah.
Was it hard to hear some of it? Sure. Of
Totally.
course. But I felt, and I could receive that truth a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that I even came back. I think we both self-narrated for a while.
Mhm.
I came back and said, I'm having panic come up inside of me because I feel like I got in trouble and I feel
Mhm.
like I did something wrong. And,
Yep.
you know, that whole thing. And we just narrated back and forth until we could see each other and go and validate it and then
Yep.
go, okay, you know, do you feel good? Yeah. Do you feel good? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And that's the important part of like actually having language for what is going on inside of me and owning it.
Yeah.
So what I had done before was project.
Mm-hmm.
This is about you.
Yep.
Instead, I took ownership for this is my anxiety
Yeah.
and it's my issue of not having acceptance to let you have bad emotions.
Yes. Totally.
Like both of those things are my things.
Yep.
And it's different for me to say like, hey, I can feel my anxiety rising because I want this good thing for you. And also if that's not what you choose, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
We also, I thought of another one.
Yeah.
that we
let's
did.
go.
Because we've worked on a lot of truth telling
Yeah.
to sort our things.
Yeah.
And in our dynamic, it's not this way in all of my friendships. Maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. But I'm the controller and you're the withdrawer.
Yeah, totally.
Ironically, in your relationship with Johnny, you're
I'm
the controller and
he's the withdrawer. Yep.
So we can all be different.
Totally.
We can show up different with different relationships.
It's just like how we talk about attachment. Like
Mhm.
you can show up different in different relationships,
Yeah.
you know?
So one of the things that I recognized was there were times when Pietze would be being vulnerable
Mhm.
that then I would have reactions to where she felt like she was being vulnerable and then it did not feel like I met her with compassion.
Totally.
This
I
happened
could
for
recall
years.
a time or two. I could recall a time or two, I think. Let me just pull it up here.
Yes, it happened for years like
Totally.
that where it felt like you were met with like a cold, harsh wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me years to understand what was happening.
Mm.
But what was happening is there's sometimes you were sharing vulnerably and then sometimes where you were in your little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were triggered and
Mhm.
you were communicating from the little girl
Yeah,
part of
I was
you.
in the pain.
You
Yeah.
were in the pain. And that would send my body into remembering my mom who communicated to me out of her little girl side of her a lot.
Yes.
And our little kids are the most irrational. They don't follow logic.
no.
They aren't like, and our adult self isn't leading. And so adult
Totally.
logic doesn't work and they're erratic. And my mom, when she was in her little girl, could not
Mother you.
me
It
or
was a
be healthy
place of
in
abandonment.
relationship. Yes.
Yep. It was a deep place of, and there was very real abandonment in your childhood around this.
Yes.
You know?
And a lot of panic because it felt very unsafe.
Oh, totally.
Because even
and
when I
very
was
out of control. You couldn't stop it. You can be,
Yes.
remember in childhood, you couldn't be honest.
Yeah.
You know, you can be
Oh,
honest with
well,
mom
I
about how this
remember-
affected you.
I remember one time telling my mom something that hurt me and she cried so hard she got a bloody nose for an hour. And I remember, now this is
Abby.
my mom who is depressed
Oh my
and suicidal
gosh.
and not
Yeah.
getting out of bed. And now I was honest with her about one thing, and now she has huge emotions and they are out of control. And now I am on emotional control.
Do you remember how old you were when that happened?
Yeah. I mean,
oh my gosh.
but so it was there was lots of situations like that where being honest led to such fragility. And this is how we all become codependent, because we have a few experiences like that. And we
they
make
imprint
vows
in our minds.
Mhm.
Like, I will never do that again.
Yes.
Right. I will never, like, that didn't go well.
Yes.
Right.
And we don't separate out, like, the truth is I was probably triggered when I gave her honesty. It probably wasn't actually just kind
Totally.
honesty.
Totally.
It was probably like reaction to something I was pissed at, honesty.
Totally.
And that is different. There's something different when I'm throwing a spear at you than when I'm giving you a newspaper.
Totally.
And that to me is
I'm giving you information versus I'm attacking you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I can be honest by giving you
Yes.
information, or I can
Yes.
be honest by stabbing you.
Yes. Totally.
And it depends on how triggered I am, how
Mhm.
dysregulated I am,
Yep.
how I present the information. Is
Yep.
it more about me or is it about you?
Yes.
So I remember recognizing, like, and I started recognizing I could feel the feeling of clenching up in my body when you would go into this emotional place.
Yeah.
I would clench up in my body.
Mm.
And I had to start, once I started recognizing that, I was like, oh, I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? Oh, this feels out of control. Like Pietze feels out of control. And so what am I doing? I'm showing up with a very logical adult boundary
Mm-hmm.
to try to be like, you're out of it. Kind of reminded me, the way I responded to you would be like in movies when someone's hysterical and someone slaps them to bring them back to their right mind.
Oh, totally.
That is what it felt like needed to
Yes.
happen.
It was like an emotional spanking.
Yes, that is what it felt like. And I've actually I have a friend who's done that to me before when I've gone into my little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I'm like, okay, yeah, the little kid inside of us feels crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It is a crazy part of us. So
But in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm just crying.
I'm just being vulnerable.
I'm just being vulnerable. Like, I
Yeah.
don't feel crazy.
You don't feel like you're in
I
your
just
little
feel
girl.
like I'm sharing like the most tender pain with you, you
right.
know?
So you don't understand why I'm coming back with
totally.
a harsh
So
reaction.
it felt like, what just
she does
happened?
not care about me.
Yeah. Like,
She's
whoa.
not safe.
Yeah. That felt like a crazy reaction to being vulnerable. Yeah.
Mhm.
That is how it felt to me. That's how I experienced it, because I didn't fully understand what was happening, you
Yeah.
know?
So what truth became for me was, hey, I've realized that there are lots of times when you share vulnerably and it makes me feel so close to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to like hear it, and I
Mhm.
love being there with you. There's sometimes when you share vulnerably and it feels like you cross into your little kid,
Mm-hmm.
and that feels really scary for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to do is learn to say, this feels like you're in your little kid and I'm feeling scared,
Mm-hmm.
instead of what I did to control the situation,
Right.
which was I was trying to get you out of your emotions.
totally.
Now, I was saying that with health, you call it healthy self-entitlement, which is like, I know that I actually can't be made to sit and listen to your
Yeah.
little kid.
I can't sit in my body. It's
Mm-hmm.
way too dysregulating to me because of my story, because of my experience, because of my very real trauma.
Yeah.
That I cannot sit in this and feel safe. And that's
And
just a real
I
impersonal
won't be
thing.
able to respond kind
Well,
to you. But
yeah.
what I can do is I can start to narrate softer, which is like,
Mhm.
hey, I want to hear your heart. It
Yeah.
feels like you're in your little girl. And then that I can also give you a chance, that mirror reflection. Do you want to keep sharing with me from your adult self? Or
Right.
do you want to do you want to go process this with someone else right now?
Yeah.
And then come back?
Totally.
Like, what it is you have options. But this is what not controlling looks like. I can have a boundary
Mhm.
and give you options
Options.
in how do you want
Yeah.
to relate with me in this
So
boundary.
not controlling is not you sitting there having to put up with it, gritting your teeth, like going, I can't do this, but I feel like I can't. Again, that's withdrawal. That's
Mhm.
withholding the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously when you said that to me, like it was hard, you know,
Totally.
but I actually appreciated it more because once I understood what was happening, that felt way better
safer.
and way safer
She's
than
not
what
judging,
I experienced.
like she's not like hating me.
Yeah.
And she's not thinking I'm stupid for having feelings about this.
Yeah.
She's in her own panic
Mm-hmm.
from her own little kid.
Totally. And especially that ownership piece was so key because then I could fully accept that that's a reality that has nothing to do with me. And I'm not bad or wrong for being
For
in my
going
little
in your
kid or
yes.
vulnerable emotions. And you're
Totally.
not bad and wrong for not being able to tolerate that.
Yes.
And so just telling that microscopic truth, then we can come to an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what do you need
Yes.
when I go into my little kid? Okay, well, I probably need narration. I probably need the ability to be honest. Okay, what do you need when you go into your little kid? Okay, well, I probably need a gentle response and to tell me that you're feeling triggered so that I know, or that you're feeling unsafe so that I know what's going on. And then we can decide from there. Or maybe we decide, oh, I probably will process these bigger emotions with someone else. And then I'll come to you and give you the different vulnerable where I can be in my adult self, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you can find win-wins. Honesty enables you to figure out, okay, what can we do for this to work for both of us?
100%. And nobody has to be bad or wrong. Like you're not bad and wrong for having that reaction. And neither am I.
Yeah.
But knowing how to be honest with each other and work with it then keeps us close.
Without blame.
Without blame.
Yeah.
Because blame, again, that takes, like, blame can't play the part.
Mm-hmm.
It just can't. That goes into codependency, right?
Yep.
Because if it's blame, then I'm blaming you for why I don't feel okay.
Yeah.
You know?
And healthy, like the opposite of codependency is I can be okay if you're not okay.
Yep. Totally.
I can find a way to get to safety without it being based on you, which means I have to be enough in my own body, my own emotions, and be present enough in my own story. And I know this sounds crazy, but for years, the way my codependency with Justin played out is like, you know, he grew up with a crazy situation in childhood and he had a lot of PTSD. So I spent all of my energy, like I think about it as life energy. I was all up over paying attention to everything going on with him.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know how his PTSD was affecting me. I didn't know what I was experiencing. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what boundaries I needed because I was more consumed with what do I do to make him okay than I was with what do I need
to be okay
for me to be okay.
Yeah. So then it takes away your ability to have a voice, to have boundaries, to narrate, to show up in the relationship, you know? And it really is a big deal. I know Johnny and I, we had a situation even recently where I could feel that he was shut down and I was kind of getting anxiety and kind of controlling, right? And it's because I wanted to work and he didn't. He was exhausted and he's like, I want auto regulation time. I want to go play Lego.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to work because I have tons of anxiety and I want to get things done. And so it was getting tense between us and we just paused and we took a breath and then we said, let's narrate our micro truth.
Yes.
So I put my hand on my heart and I said, I'm feeling anxiety because I feel like we need to get work done. And I feel like if we could get a little bit done, I would be able to let this go so that we could have rest time.
Totally.
But I feel like my needs aren't going to get met here. And Johnny said, I feel like our life has been consumed with working right now. And I'm afraid that if I give you this work time, it's going to bleed into the next few days and I'm not going to get auto regulation time. Now, both of us were right in what we were experiencing because I wasn't getting enough work time and he wasn't getting enough auto regulation time. And so we validated that in each other. And then we paused and we said, okay, now
what can we agree on?
Yes. How can we make an agreement here so that Pietze, you don't go into control, and Johnny, you don't start withdrawing from the relationship. Let's come up and you know what? Rather than just doing something like him just giving in and like working, but he's resenting me the whole time. And then he ends up completely falling off the face of the planet and hiding away in the basement playing Legos. And I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
Or me giving in to him and he's just doing auto regulation time,
growing in anxiety, and then you exploded
into a fight, right? We have this clear conversation till we get to an agreement on the front end. So I said to him, I have a thought and then you can counter it or come up with your own idea. Here's my idea. If we worked tonight, what if tomorrow you have the day off and I have to work. And what if I pick up the kids from school and you can have the whole day to have auto regulation time?
Right. So this is a secret option C. Here's a way that I can get my needs met and you can get your needs met. Does this work for both of us?
Yeah. And we bargain. We'll go back and forth. So then he said to me, I think that that's a good idea, but I have a few contingencies. And so he came back and he's like, I don't want to work till midnight.
Yep.
I want to calm down and I'm totally fine to do that. But I would also love it if you could spend family time with us tomorrow night and not work.
Yes.
And we literally bargained back and forth
until
we had a win-win and then we agreed upon it and there was no fight.
Yes.
We both felt, and then guess what? That night when we went to work, he was prepared for it. He wasn't resentful. He wasn't upset. He wasn't shut down and withdrawn. He was fully present and fully there. And the next day when he went to go have his auto regulation time and I was on kid duty, I was like, peace out. I love you. Have a great time. And he could fully enjoy it because we both fully felt safe because we'd been honest about what we had felt.
Yeah.
We felt our feelings, had been honest about what we felt. And then we came to a really good agreement that we could both feel good about.
Yeah. For those of you who are wondering what auto regulation means, it means like time where you're like just having downtime. Maybe you're like checking out
or scrolling on your phone or playing a video game
or doing something where you're not having to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
So, I was thinking about how I did this the other day. When we were at the hospital with my uncle dying, there was like 5 of us and we were all hungry and trying to figure out how to eat. And you could tell that I could tell I'm going to get mad at them if I can't eat because I get hangry.
Yeah.
And I could tell everybody was kind of feeling like their own emotions.
Totally.
So what we did is I was like, okay, can we just be honest about what we want and need right now? What do you want and need right now? What do you want and need right now? Like, who wants to eat? Who wants to stay at the hospital? Who wants to leave?
Yeah.
What is the schedule? And so we looked at we had every person answer with their honesty.
I love
their
this.
need. And so every single person shared their honesty and their need. And then we came up with a solution. Like, okay, so it sounds like maybe you guys want to leave in 30 minutes, so you don't want to eat. I have to eat now and they need to eat now. So what if we DoorDash food for ourselves to the hospital? We can eat and then you guys can leave when you're ready to leave and we can leave on this. And so we just, and we said, does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
But you cannot make an agreement that works until there's enough honest pieces of the puzzle to understand.
You have to collect all the information for the agreement to be valid and to work.
Yeah.
But I love that because oftentimes, like in a situation where your uncle is dying, we don't have those healthy formulas. So that would erupt because their stress is high, grief is high.
We have resentment towards each other. And then we're like, they never care about, they said we'd go get food, but now they're not going to get food.
Totally.
And that healthy self-entitlement is, I can figure out how to have a voice about what I need and figure out what other people need.
I can be flexible. I can be flexible to accommodate that. Part of relationship is accommodating the needs of others. So I know that I'm a part of this relationship, but I also know that you're a part of this relationship and your needs matter just as much as mine.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is a roundabout. I know people are going to have so many questions because codependency is a big topic. You read a book that you loved on it. Do you know what it's called?
Yeah. So the book is called Conscious Loving. I will say that I think that book is paired really nicely with understanding attachment theory. I think that
one or the other is extreme.
One or the other is extreme. Really, you need the understanding of, and this is something that we teach a lot with our couples, is that you need the balance of learning how to unhitch from codependency, learning how to have healthy attachment, and balancing that out with nervous system regulation. And they all kind of fit cohesively. So, you know, whenever you're going too far in one direction, you balance it out.
So basically you're like, it was a very good book, but it's an extreme and it needs something to counter it.
Yep. It needs balance 100%. But I think it's
a good
all of
start
this,
if you
it's
need
a great
to.
start, you know, and I think learning about codependency is a great start. You know what I'm saying? Just understanding the places that you are codependent.
And honestly, half of the way that I have transformed my codependency is just by doing things like it's the ownership of my own thing instead of even like when I was talking about your little girl showing up, it'd be easy to be like, Pietze does this thing that drives me crazy.
Totally.
She's so emotional. She's so whatever it is that, I mean, I didn't feel those things. I just was like, wow, this feels out of
But
control.
it'd be easy to make up a
make
blame
it
story
about you.
Yeah.
And so again, it's the ability to be in our own feelings, to know our own experience.
Yes. And to know our boundaries that actually feel safe, our internal boundaries. Like, this is my experience. That's their experience. I'm not responsible for their experience, you know?
Yep.
It's a powerful thing.
Well, if people want to meet with you or get on your waiting list, it's contact@pietze.com.
Yep.
Pietze.
Or go to pietze.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have the most complicated name to have it be your website.
I know, but it's unique. So
Yeah.
it's not taken anywhere. Pietze.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you've been on our podcast.
It's been so fun being here.
You are one of my favorite people. I'm glad that we are less entangled than ever.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like we have so much honesty.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of honesty and we've worked really hard for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you have any hard truths you have to tell me before we end this?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't love the way that you put toothbrush or your toothpaste on a toothbrush. It's very stingy, and I have strong concerns about how much the lack of toothpaste you are using.
Oh, yesterday she was like, "Can I borrow your toothpaste?" I said, "Sure," but I was like, "I'm going to squeeze it onto your toothbrush." Because I was like, then I won't feel frustrated about how you squeeze the toothpaste.
100%. And I laughed
But then you
at
asked, you're like, "Oh, is this because you didn't want me to squeeze the toothpaste?" I said, "Yes."
See,
and we were very honest about what happened between us.
it was very funny because this is what 30 years of 30 whatever years of friendship looks like, is that I knew exactly why she didn't want me to touch the toothpaste. She had a very specific way that she wanted it squeezed. And I was not allowed, because we are very opposite in the way we handle products. Okay. And I didn't take that personally. I thought it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Well, cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Thank you all.
Codependent, no more.
I will say Justin's going to be so sad because we used these exact mugs the whole time.
Oh, he's going to be so bummed. Maybe there's
but
like
maybe
a time
it'll
warp.
just be with him.
Yeah, just with him.
Every
There's
time
different
with
mugs.
him, it's different.
With
mugs.
us, I always get the Mandalorian, and you get
The Office. Feel good about that.
Uh-huh.
All right. Share this episode with the people in your life that you want to tell you're codependent and you need to change.
Heck yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's the opposite of what we're saying. But really, honestly, if you are in relationships that you want to process through codependency, or you want to start being a little bit more honest, or you have something that you want to get off your chest, that's the one thing that I would challenge you. Is there somewhere that you could be a little bit more honest this week?
Yeah.
Is there somewhere that you could have a little bit more of yourself?
Yep. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Oh, and then you don't have to do it weird. Like when I started telling truth, it was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel la, 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 la."
Yeah,
and it was
it's like emotional vomit,
yes.
or like high stakes, you know, rather than just being like, "Oh, hey, this is coming up."
Yep.
You know?
Yep. It gets easier. It gets more normal. Keep going on the journey. Keep trying things. You'll learn and grow as you go. You'll make some messes, but honestly, you'll make messes without trying the new things. Honesty will create some messes for you, but not being honest is already creating messes for you.
100%.
So we have to look at it like, I'm not afraid to start being more honest.
Yeah.
You have to look at it as it's already costing my relationships the areas that I'm not being honest.
And I'm committed
yet.
to my growth. I'm committed to showing up as a healthy attacher.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, goodbye, people.
Goodbye.